Thank you for being here. I hope you're coming from an awesome session of seeing the devs on stage. Very exciting. I'll be watching that later. But thank you for coming. And before I get started, I just want to kind of break down why I said Breaking Good. Just give me a quick nod if you know Breaking Bad. Beautiful, almost everyone, so that's awesome. You know, as everyone knows, it kind of focuses on a high school chemistry teacher. And like every good chemist, there's a lot of mixing different chemicals and variables, trying to get the best product or the best kind of output possible. And I feel like there's a lot of parallels with analysts and with what we do. Just trying to see what kind of, you know, data we can find, what kind of insights we can pull out, what's the story behind all of that. And that's what we've been doing at the Ad Council, is over our experience and time with Tableau, we've done a lot of experimenting and seeing what works best, and hopefully I can give you some of the advice and the learnings that we found over time. And of course, Breaking Good rather than Baking Bad, because we're trying to do good, whether it's good for sales, good for the organization, or good for the world. All right. So this is me. I've been in the industry for about 10 years. I'm now working as a manager of insights and analytics at the Ad Council. I joined about 2 years ago and have been previously on the agency side up until now. And this is our agenda for today. So I want to share our journey and how we got to Tableau, show you some of the actual dashboards and visualizations. Hopefully some of those will be interesting to you. Maybe there's something that you can take away for your own organizations. Introduce you to our new media mix model, which is our latest adventure, and show you some results there. Maybe do a little kind of giveaway during that point, and then wrap it up with 3 key learnings and advice that I would give you that goes along with it. All right, so at the Ad Council, we actually just rebranded for the first time after 75 years. So we updated our logo, which is there. It's very, very similar, so you might not even notice the change, but we do have our new manifesto on the right. But what didn't change is our mission, being that we're trying to move the needle and stimulate action on public issues through communications programs. I think the best way to kind of show you what that is to show you a short video, and it is short, so bear with me, but I think it'll give you an idea of who we are, and I think that's important to understand as we move forward.
I dare you. I dare you to change the world.
There's a moment in your bones when the fire takes over.
We'd do anything for kids, yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger.
I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help.
Dweeb.
Useless.
Shut it down.
Use this emoji right here to help spread awareness.
I am a witness.
My dad, he would come home and one time
I'm so proud of you.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent.
I just want my family to be safe.
Come on in.
Remember that to love America is to love all Americans.
A special thanks to the millions of people who watched, shared, and cried about this video.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle.
Food is definitely going to waste around the world. They say about 1/3 of the world's food never gets eaten.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon. So we're good? What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes.
We can be heroes everywhere we go. We can have all that we ever want. Singing like Ali, rocking our bodies, standing on top like a champion.
Now that's a major key alert.
All right. So I think that gives you a good idea of kind of some of the issues that we tackle. Of course, it's across a wide variety of areas and topics. But where did we start? We actually started in 1942 as the War Advertising Council after the attacks on Pearl Harbor. And Our purpose was to rally support for World War II related efforts. So loose lips, sink ships, which is the one you see on the left-hand side, was one of the most memorable PSAs of that time. And if none of these actually ring any bells, maybe these will. So this is some of the iconic creative that we've created over the years. So slogans like, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste," "McGruff the crime dog and taking a bite out of crime." And I know a lot of these are PSAs that you might not have associated with the Ad Council, which is something that I think is pretty remarkable for us. But just over the years, these have really stuck with the public. And while most of our campaigns sign on for a minimum of 3 years, some actually stay with us for decades. And these are two of the most well-known ones. So wildfire prevention, so Smokey Bear, and Only You Can Prevent Wildfires, is with the Ad Council, and it's been with us since 1944. It's actually the longest running PSA in the nation, or in the history, I believe. And then, of course, drunk driving prevention. There's been different creative over the years, and that's evolved, starting with Friends Don't Let Friends Drive Drunk, and then Buzz Driving is Drunk Driving. So this is where we are now. In April, we actually launched Beyond I Do, which is the ad you see on the left-hand side. And it's spreading awareness, or the intent is to raise awareness around discrimination. And it's actually, shockingly, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT Americans in 31 states. And that's just something that people don't realize. In the middle ad, which we launched in August, it's End Family Fire. Another stat that people don't realize is that 8 kids are killed or injured a day by family fire, so just unsafe gun storage. And then most recently, last month in September, we launched She Can STEM, which is a campaign that aims to encourage young girls into STEM careers. So that's just a sample of where we are now. And the way our model works is it's pretty unique in the way that we work with these 4 main areas. So we work with nonprofits and government agencies to sponsor the hard cost of distribution and production, and also they serve as, experts in these different areas that our campaigns are branching into. We work with agencies, to provide their talent and expertise, whether it's PR, creative, social, so a variety of areas that we'll reach out to. We work with corporate partners, which includes our board of directors, and they, help with guidance, partnerships, critical funding, and make those connections that make the campaigns really, really thrive. And then, of course, media companies. And media companies, we actually receive almost $1 billion in donated media a year, which is huge for us. And they are providing the ad space and the time for our campaigns to actually get out there and reach the people they need to reach. And how we evaluate our campaigns is this 4 kind of bucketed area, which is really similar to the traditional marketing funnel, where we have exposure, where we look at things like donated media, social reach. We look at awareness in our next bucket, which will be issuing campaign ad recognition, which is ties back to our omnibus survey that we run. Engagement, digital actions, website conversions, just social interactions or engagements, even likes. And then finally, impact is, where everything kind of culminates together. And that can be a change in the behavior, online or offline conversions. It really depends on what the campaign is, and I'll show you some examples of what impact actually is for us and how we measure it. So how did we get to working with Tableau and to where we are now? So there's 75 years worth of data. It's a lot of data, and it's coming from so many different sources. So you have social, survey, print, TV, just all of these different places all coming together, and we need to make them all blend into one area. So we started actually in 1952 with pencil and paper, which my boss says is true. Moved to Excel in 1995, PSA Analytics in 2011, and then finally Tableau in 2016. So why Tableau? I know a lot of you already probably have the answer of why you chose Tableau or why you were working with them. For us, it was a couple main areas, so we had to make sure it's user-friendly and easy to adopt, because it wasn't going to only be our analytics team working within the platform day to day. We had to be able to have all this information that we could actually act upon, but also have it so that other people in the organization will be able to see exactly what they need in one clean place. It needs to have incredible visualizations, keep people engaged, people actively using the platform. It needs to be able to add data sources. So that's 75 years worth of data from all those different media types. That's extremely important to us, and we have to do it as fast as possible. All of that will end up being impact. And like I said, I want to show you what impact is. So for us, it can be something as simple as, which is not simple actually, this is the hardest one because it's actually an offline behavior, but getting people to donate goods to Goodwill and how many pounds that actually equals. How did our efforts actually lead to Meals on Wheels sign up? So how many people actually went out, signed up on the website, donated their lunch break to serve meals, in their communities? And then how many more young adults are comfortable supporting a friend in need? And this is for our suicide prevention campaign. So there's a variety of different ways we'll measure impact and what we're looking for. So once we signed up with Tableau, we had to start the whole process of integration. So we used our existing database, which consisted of an API to our digital asset management platform, and different processes to manage disparate sources, identified key digital and social media platforms, which you see on the bottom there, and put that all together to end up with over 40 different data sources. This is just a sample of them. Over 10,000 different media partners running across 40 different campaigns all at the same time. One major thing is that we did not do this alone. So some of you may be familiar with UserReady. They have a booth downstairs in Data Village. They've really become an extension of our team and have been with us since the very beginning. So since we started in 2016. And they've helped us, construct dashboard framework, walked us through best practices, incorporate new data sources. So they're really our go-to for a lot of things when we're getting this data ready. And when we actually went to start designing our dashboards, the ones that we were releasing with to our organization, we followed their MAD design, which basically works in the way that we're going to monitor, analyze in detail, and we're going to do that where we get more granular with data as we go down, so it fits for us, the analysts, and anyone that's really in the platform constantly, but also has enough dashboards that are on the monitor level, so it hits the VPs. They're able to see it quickly, understand a trend, and move forward. And I'll show you what these ended up looking like, but on the right is where we started with sketches. I just feel like that's interesting to show as well. All right, so what did they end up looking like? This is an example of a dashboard to monitor. So what you'll notice is that you can see the 4 buckets. Let me actually see if I can, I tried to use a laser pointer. Anyway, the 4 main buckets going down to the ones that I had showed you earlier as far as how we evaluate our campaigns through that framework. So you see exposure, awareness, engagement, and impact. And from here you have that bird's eye view of what's going on, what trends are happening across all of the different media sources. When you move into an analyzed dashboard, you get a little bit deeper with the data. So now you can see which media types are actually driving that. So we saw, okay, we know how much donated media we have overall for that time period, but what's actually happening as far as what's driving the most? In this case, TV is really doing a lot of work for us. And where are those spikes? How does that change across all the different DMAs we have? And of course, these are all interactive so that you can click on any of the media types or anywhere in the dashboards and have everything update accordingly. So this is really helpful for us and across the organization. And then specifically for our team, you get these detail level dashboards. And in these dashboards, you can see which assets are working the hardest. When are they actually showing up? Which providers are actually airing the ads most often? And a variety of other metrics. So to show you an actual example of an analysis that goes along with these dashboards, I want to give you some context by showing you one of our campaigns that is really important to me personally and to a lot of people. So lung cancer is actually the leading cause of cancer-related death in America. And it ends up being that 422 people a day are killed by lung cancer. The good news is that survival rates are 5 times higher with early scanning and early detection. So our goal with the Save by the Scan campaign is to raise awareness of the benefits of this. And we're doing this with the American Lung Association and Lung Force. And the main impact metric for us in this case is getting high-risk individuals to the site and having them take this quiz to see if they're eligible for a scan. So an example of what we would do is we'd look at, the main dashboard that I showed you earlier, see these spikes. So we're seeing spikes in donating media. We don't know what's driving them yet, but we do see spikes, and we see an increase in PSA awareness. So people are more aware of this issue, which is great to see. If we dive into what those spikes are actually driving them, you see that out-of-home played a big role on the left-hand side for those spikes. But if you look at impressions, digital did a lot, and we actually ran a Facebook campaign during that time. So you can see, of course they're interactive and you can play around with them, but you can see what's really driving them. So if we take a look deeper at our impact metrics, so actual sessions and getting people to the site, you'll notice that there's a very similar pattern with sessions, which is the top left here. just showing that our donated media is really putting in work to getting people to visit the site and to complete our final, our impact or our main action. Even though the last couple of months have been pretty low, we're actually in maintenance mode, so we're not doing too much promotion. But what was great to see is that session duration is going up, and we're actually seeing bounce rate go down. So this is really great for us and something that we definitely want to report back. On the right-hand side, you're looking at conversions, so we can see that we're holding steady with conversions over time and really seeing what's working for us so that we can go and give recommendations in the way that might be, organic social is doing great for our conversions. Maybe we can do some more promotions there. We are seeing that, I'm trying to check this out, but, oops, sorry. Anyway, we make recommendations based on the insights that we find here and report back and keep optimizing as we move forward and monitoring through the platform. All right, so our marketing mix model. So as we try to get into data science more at the Ad Council, we're looking towards technology to do that. So we decided to go into and build our own marketing mix model. And as a nonprofit, I'm sure many of you are nonprofits or have a similar situation. There's not that much, we are working with limited resources. And a model can start at $75,000. And with that, across 40 campaigns and trying to do it multiple times throughout, over time, 3 years even, it's really, really expensive. So having this upfront investment is really working for us. So this is when we just kind of got into it, and I want to show you our first really big results. So we didn't do this alone. We worked with UserReady, which helped us prepare the data to get ready to feed into the model, which means summarizing on a weekly level and getting it all ready across all those media types. We worked with Interworks, who actually designed the model and built it using Alteryx. Alteryx to provide that user interface to execute the model, and for us that's really great because we needed a turnkey solution to actually go and execute this model without having a PhD. We don't have that background that we would need to actually go and do that without having a platform that would help us in that way. And then of course we're actually visualizing all of the results in Tableau. The purpose of a marketing mix or a media mix model, of course, is to kind of see what's working the hardest, what's actually driving in terms of media types the most success, what's our contribution. A lot of our campaigns have a lot of moving parts and a lot of people that are involved. How much is the Ad Council actually, getting back or actually contributing to success? And then how do we optimize moving forward? And this concept of a citizen data scientist, I think many of you might be familiar with already, but our goal was to really enable us as a team to be able to use this without needing, like I said, a PhD. And it really follows Gartner's definition of a data scientist, which is this. I won't read it to you, but it's really about just bridging that gap and allowing us to move forward in this area. And because I already showed you drawing board sketches, I do like to do that. This is where it started, and this is the model as it is now. Okay, so for context, another example of one of our campaigns. Puppies, and everyone loves puppies and pets. So one of our campaigns is the Shelter Pet Project. And what people don't know is that of the 3 million pets that enter shelters each year, 2.4 million, which are healthy or treatable, are left homeless at the end. So it's a very unfortunate situation. So what we want to do is encourage people to actually think of shelters and think of rescue centers first for when they are thinking about adopting. And we've been using website searches for pets on our site as a key conversion, so as an impact measure, and then increases in self-reported utilization or interest of adopting from these areas. Okay. I know I've been talking for a bit, so I want to actually give you a little bit of a pause here. But the main question with the model is we're trying to answer how many dog and cat adoptions from shelters are a result of our campaign specifically. And this image that you see on the left is a mosaic of very, very tiny pictures from our campaign put together to show you how many adoptions we actually drove over the past 3 years. Does anyone want to give a guess for how many that is? And I swear I have a little giveaway to give you if you are confident enough to guess. No? Okay, I'll give it to you guys anyway later. All right, fine. Anyway, before I show you the results though, to show you that we do know what we're talking about, this is our sanity check, looking at how our model predicted against actual adoptions looking back historically. So we have an R-squared of 0.99, super close, little bit of variance throughout, but we were really, really happy with how this turned out. And the results are that we had 357,000 adoptions over the past 3 years. That's huge for us. We've never been able to do this in the way that we could show this actual real-life impact before, so that's why we're so excited about using this model. And it ended up being around 23% lift on adoptions. So if you look at that in Tableau, you can see which media types are working the hardest, or what's driving the most adoptions. So you'll see that the gray is the baseline. So if we didn't do anything and we didn't have this campaign at all, this is how many adoptions would have happened anyway. Our 23% lift is according to media type here. So you'll see that TV drove the most for us. Another way to look at this is to look at it in the way of how many pets were adopted per what was spent. So what's working the hardest here? So in this case, Google Ads is definitely working the hardest. There's certain things to keep in mind. So while we're looking at this data, we have to see what's scalable, what can we optimize against. Not necessarily we're going to move all our money into one place based on the results, but we're able to see what's working the hardest. And in this case, we can give more attention to TV, knowing that there's room for improvement there, because it is driving so many of our adoptions. All right, so learnings and advice. So like I said, there's 3 main areas that I want to touch upon. One is creating visualizations is super easy in Tableau. I think everyone knows that. Connecting to a database is not as easy, especially for us. So it's super turnkey in Tableau if you're using standalone dataset and building visualizations from there. When we were coming into Tableau, we had a really comprehensive database, and it needed to be organized a little bit better. And we had KPIs spread all over different media sources in many different ways. So understanding how to locate that data, connect it to the dashboard, required a lot of time and resources. And for us, sometimes, in other cases, in other organizations, the IT team will do a lot of this and a lot of the heavy lifting. For us, we have a very small IT team, and they're mostly a help desk for when things are happening, computer issues and so on. So they couldn't take this on, and especially since it's something that our team is trying to drive. And that might be a very similar situation to something that you guys have as well. So it was a lot of time we didn't exactly budget for in our team, and a lot of things we had to learn just to make that work. So my advice here would be to outsource. So using a partner like UserReady was huge for us. So outsource when you can and when it makes sense, and over budget, not necessarily in cost, but in time. I think we were really aggressive with our timeline, so that was something that, looking back, we should have maybe built in a little bit more of a buffer, but definitely advice I think is worth giving to everyone. The second being the catch-22 of self-service analytics. So it definitely enables and empowers our organization to access data, and it definitely frees up time for us to do more complex analyses and do these new initiatives. But the problem is that sometimes there's a little bit of a negative effect on that. So we have these other people in our organization that are going in, and sometimes they're not interpreting the data correctly because we're not there. Sometimes the dashboards are too complex and they're getting overwhelmed, and we don't want them to lose enthusiasm because then it has a negative effect on adoption. So there's a lot of things that happen as they're going into these dashboards, and of course we want to give them everything they need, but then you end up with a really cluttered dashboard. So the advice here is to create clean and purposeful dashboards. Know exactly what you want to accomplish when you go in and make these dashboards so that they have the answer and they're not getting overwhelmed. Another thing is finding balance, and I think that's something that we're doing at the Ad Council, and we're taking a step back to figure out what is that right balance. When do we step in? What kind of requests come to our team, the analytics team, or which ones are more of a self-service analytics method and they can go in and pull themselves? The third being, like I mentioned, adoption is fostering Tableau adoption. Again, with smaller organizations and limited resources, a lot of times you're working on this huge project, you launch the product, and then you have to move on. You have to move on to the next initiative. And the requests didn't stop coming from your teams and your clients. So you have to catch up with all that. And we moved on, and we were going through. And of course, we did trainings in the beginning. But it's a really ongoing process. And because there's new employees coming in, maybe if they're not using the tool, they forget how to use it. So my advice there is to have a plan. Make sure that there's a plan for new people coming in, so new employees have an introduction to Tableau, have an introduction to how they use the dashboards, where to find these key KPIs that we spent so much time making sure they have them there, but maybe they don't know where to look. Some users maybe at some point didn't quite remember how to access something, so you have to refresh their memory. One way to do that is just showing them the latest and greatest that Tableau has to offer. So announcements that we hear during this week, we have to go back and share that, and it'll get them excited, and it'll get them using those dashboards again. So I think that's a critical component. And if you have to offer free pizza for a meeting to get them there, do it, because it's so important to keep them using it and keeping them using it on a regular basis. Okay, I feel like I went through that extremely fast, but please, if you have a moment, fill out the session details. Thank you. It was really great having you guys all here. I hope there's something valuable that you took away from this. I do have a giveaway for you guys. I mean, I do have some pens, and I also have some Ad Council tote bags if you want to carry your stuff before data night out tonight, or just write things down. I don't know. I feel like it's useful. So thank you. That's great. Cool. All right. So Sean right there. We'll give everyone pens if you're interested. I also have tote bags here. This is definitely a team effort, so if you do have questions, you can come ask me. My team is here as well, so I'll do my best to answer them accordingly. Don't be so quiet, you guys. Go for it. Oh, for the actual adoptions. We actually got that from our client, the Humane Society, I believe. Right? Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and it's something that we're actually struggling with, trying to figure out. It was more that we recognize that there's an issue, that there's some kind of disconnect, and everyone was kind of getting a little frustrated. So what we're trying to do now is take a step back, see what's actually the main thing that they're looking for, or what's making them frustrated in the first place, and moving back from there. So we're making one-on-ones with the campaign teams for us that are the ones that are accessing the dashboards, and seeing why they're getting frustrated. How can we adapt the dashboard to fit better for them, or to work better for them, in a way that they're not going and reporting back numbers in not necessarily an incorrect way, but kind of leading people to believe something that's not actually true. So it's a lot of just one-on-one kind of chats and working together for that. Sure. That's a great question. So for some sponsors we give access to those specific dashboards. It is on a case-by-case basis. So usually we like to keep it internal, so it's all mostly analysis for us, but that's something we're looking into doing, especially with the marketing mix model now. With these results, do we actually go and share those with the sponsors as well? So we are leaning towards yes in most of those cases, but when they ask. Internally, it is available for everyone to go into and look. Our team is definitely using it the most, which is kind of going back to that adoption. We want people to use it more, but where is that balance? So it's an exciting one.
How do you guys define what your impact KPIs are?
It's definitely a team effort. We have meetings right in the upfront when we're actually launching a campaign to have everyone sitting at the table. So you have someone from each department, from PR, from especially analytics. You have the campaign team themselves, so they have the sponsors in mind. Someone that's representing all sides to decide on what that impact metric is. And it's necessary. At one point, we were debating whether it's like, what's the most attainable kind of impact metric, but now we're reaching a lot farther and really trying to see that offline behavior, because if that's what we're trying to prove, we should go for the harder thing, even if it's a tough one to measure. So we're trying to make sure everything's as measurable as possible.
Back to your media mix model.
Yeah.
Give a little insight into how you're assigning municipalities how you actually.
Right. That one I may have to circle back with you on, because I want to make sure I give you the best answer, and that might not be coming from me. So let me circle back with you. Maybe we'll exchange business cards, and I can definitely get you an answer or put you in contact with the right person for that one, for sure. Awesome. Well, thanks. If you have any other questions, email me, and I'll make sure, like I said, either I get you an answer or I will put you in contact with someone who absolutely has an answer. Cool. Nice.